28mm along with the 35 are probably the most popular focal lengths for street photography. You have a 28 on the new digital fixed lens Leica cameras. A lot of film street photographers are considering the 28 like their go-to without question, and of course our dear Ricoh GR3 has a 28 equivalent lens on it. But when it comes to the three leading brands making mirrorless cameras, Sony, Canon and Nikon, it is difficult to find any recent 28 lenses, or at least until very recently. I think Nikon and Canon just fill this gap with f2.8 versions, but Sony on the other hand only has a f2 version that was released 8 years ago in 2015. It is almost like the 28mm has been neglected by them, making us feel like they are not very supportive to the street photography genre. But this year Viltrox released a new 28mm prime that I was lucky to try for the past few days. Different from the other ones I mentioned before, this one opens all the way to f1.8, which is something I was particularly excited about since I always find that wide-angle photos with a shallow depth of field are looking extra special. Before elaborating about the lens, let me tell you that Viltrox sent me this lens for the purpose of making a video talking about it. They are not sponsoring nor reviewing the video before I release it, so you will get my totally unfiltered opinion. That said, I'm not making technical reviews comparing the lens performance at various f-stop, but more so a on-field real usage experience during which I do my best to take decently good photos and videos to show you a glimpse of what is possible to do with the lens. And with that out of the way, let me start with what I liked about it. If you have been here before, you know that in the past months I've been placing an increasing amount of focus in one particular feature of any camera or any lenses, and it is its weight. What would be the point of having the best ever camera or lens if you can't be bothered to take it out in the world because it's too heavy or too bulky? This lens finds a sweet spot at 367 grams. Considering that is an autofocus 1.8 lens, I think it is pretty reasonable. When I pair it with my Sony a7 IV, it is just light enough for it to be sitting straight on my belly or my torso when using a camera strap. It is not front heavy. Recently I've been using a lot f2.8 lenses or anything that is light enough to feel less resistance before going out for a shoot. I really don't mind sacrificing some quality if it means that I would bring out my camera more often. I am not a pixel peeper, especially when it comes to street photos, and I prefer having a photo that is not perfectly sharp or that has some flair over having no photo at all. And that brings me to the second point I like about this lens, and it is its image quality. Considering the price and that it is a third-party manufacturer, you are not making a lot of compromises. I was pretty impressed by the image quality, even from f1.8. Like I said before, I'm not a pixel peeper, but it's good to know that you can get plenty of sharpness even wide open. Viltrox is the youngest of the popular third-party lens manufacturers. I guess you are familiar with Sigma and Tamron. Recently we have also seen Samyang stepping in the game, and now Viltrox. Despite less years of expertise in the making, they have been crushing it lately. I did not try it myself, but I've heard only good things about the recently released 27mm f1.2 for Fuji cameras. They have entered the market in a bold way, making fairly priced, high-quality lenses. This 28mm has of course a slightly different feel compared to my Sony and Sigma lenses. The experience using it is also different, obviously, different materials and look, but when reviewing the photos I took with it, I felt like quality-wise it could have been taken on any of my more expensive lenses. I won't dedicate a whole section about build quality, so in just a few words, it is good, it feels solid and well crafted. On a premium feeling scale, let's say, it sits around the same level as the Sony non-G Master prime lenses. There is something pretty unique you can get with this lens. It is the combination of a wide field of view with a shallow depth of field. With experience now, I want to justify the use of bokeh in my photos. Back in the day, I would shoot longer lenses wide open to isolate my subject because I thought it looked cool, but doing so I was losing all the context, all the environment around my subject. Relying too much on the bokeh, especially for streets, is the easy route, but when you play with shallow depth of field with a wide-angle lens, it's another story. You get plenty of out-of-focus elements in your frame, but most of them stay recognizable, unlike when using an 85mm or longer. You can really benefit from the bokeh to further isolate your subject while being forced to think more about your composition, trying to incorporate or eliminate some out-of-focus elements with more intention. I hope some of my photos can illustrate that. I really feel something special when looking at the wide-angle photos that was shot wide open. It goes also without saying that such a wide aperture is also very good to do night photography. But when you shoot at such low f-stop, you need a good autofocus system to back it up, and here again the lens doesn't disappoint. In terms of speed, it is not the fastest on the market, but it really is more than enough for all sorts of photography, including street and travel, which are the ones I mainly do. I'm shooting some portraits sometimes too, and again, it did the job perfectly. The one thing I was the most impressed about is not the speed of the AF, but the stickiness. I like using the tracking AF sometimes, and once you lock keep your focus on something, you can move your camera to recompose or wait that thing or person to move and the focus will stick. Overall, we have a decently fast and very reliable autofocus system on this lens, which is also very important when it comes to shooting video. Most of the time when shooting the B-roll for my videos, I lock focus on something and turn off the autofocus, so it is not a good demonstration, but I did shoot the talking head section of this video with this lens and the focus stayed glued to my eye. It has a declicked aperturing, which I guess is good for some video work when you need to open or close your f-stop while recording to have smooth transitions. It is not something I use for photography. I prefer using the dials on my camera body, but I guess it's a good to have. The only comparable lens for the Sony system is the Sony 28 f2, which, like I said before, was released 8 years ago. Despite not being very new, it is still sold at a higher price than this Viltrox f1.8, about $450 for the Sony and $380 for the Viltrox, which is then a very good value for money, I think. I really couldn't find a lot of negative points about this lens, especially if you consider the price and the lack of other available options. Maybe the vignetting, distortion and chromatic aberration. The first two are very easy to correct since the correction profile is available in Lightroom. The chromatic aberration at low f-stop is present and a bit more tricky to correct, but if you play with the manual sliders you can get good results. But in comparison with the other Sony non-G Master Prime lenses, we are in the same territory in terms of optical quality. I talked in a positive way about the weight, and yes, it is light for a fast full-frame lens, but it is still a full-frame lens that weighs a certain amount and that has a certain size. The lens only is more heavy than a Ricoh GR3 for example, but it is a bit like comparing apples and pears. With the Viltrox you have the f1.8, the fast autofocus and the full-frame look. With the GR you have the weight, the stealth factor and the compactness. This negative point is not really about the lens itself, but more about the full-frame system as a whole and what you have to deal with when shooting full frame. Last point, which is a bit surprising, there is no weather sealing gasket. I really don't understand why today there are still lenses that are made without a weather sealing gasket. It seems like such a dumb little piece to add to a lens, but I must be missing something. But on that side too, Sony non-G Master Prime lenses are the same. They don't have weather sealing gasket, which is a negative point, but the competition is not doing any better, let's say. That's it for this lens review. I hope you could get some insightful information, and more importantly that you could see some good photos and videos that gave you a good idea of what is possible to capture with this lens. I think Viltrox made a tremendous amount of progress very fast, and soon it will be in the same class as the Sigma and the Tamron of the world. So see you next time. Bye.